How are we doing today? We are Halfd0rk. Wait, that sounds weird. I'm Halfd0rk. You're you. But today, we've got plenty to do. So, I am going to be showing you a little bit of what I've kind of prepared for our trading card game experiment in the Sandbox. But before that, we're going to go over a party coming up for, guess what, Halloween right around the corner. So SandStorm is hosting inside the Sandbox Draft Gallery, the gamemaker software. You can join up and play in the CyberKong's themed Halloween party. So it's going to be in the social hub that everyone can come and hang out with us on the 29th of October. So that's how many days from now? Wow, coming quick. It's Saturday. So Saturday, 7:30 p.m. UTC. So that's, for me, we're looking at 3:30, I believe, Eastern Standard Time. So if you're available around that time, come hang out with us in the Sandstorm Social Hub, one of the featured experiences on the Drafts Gallery. But welcome in, everybody. Erotos is here. Slater Raid, what's happening? Escape Room Artist, Quan. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be working on our trading card game. But yeah, just wanted to announce, hey, there's a party Saturday. Why wouldn't you want to be there, right? There's probably going to be some live music. It's always interesting to see live music in the Metaverse. And so in this social hub, you'll probably be able to, interact with the DJ himself, perhaps on Discord. There will be like a voice call that you can hop into for the live music. So I think that'll be fun. The hosts are going to be Henry the Grape. So he's community manager of CyberKong's, and CryptoLander, who also is the, looks like a CyberKong's holder, the founder CEO of NFT Snapback and Collection, SOG. Anyway, worth mentioning, but if you're available, pop on in 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. UTC on Saturday. Another thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the Vox Edit contest, the Mystical Creatures, currently in the works. You have 2 days to make a mystical creature, if that's something you'd be interested in. This is using the Vox Edit software, so making an animated asset that can be dropped into a sandbox experience. Well worth your time if you can invest it. The theme is mystical creatures in the sandbox, pets specifically. They can be any size. Pets, come in all shapes and sizes. So the new mission is to bring pets to the Metaverse. A man's best friend is the dog, but in reality could be any animal: a cat, a frog, a rabbit, maybe even a dragon, only limited by your creativity. So that's a great challenge. It's been ongoing for the last week, but you still have enough time to throw together a pet by Friday, October 28th, end of day. So that's, I believe, PM. So I doing some quick math, around 8 p.m. Friday, Eastern Standard Time. But 5,000 sand prize pool. Thank you, Sandstorm, for that. First place getting 2,500 of it. So I could drop this link in the chat if that's something you all would be interested in. Oh, thank you. SandStorm Meetup, aka Slater Raid, my producer, already got us covered. But so those are the two big news things for today. Outside of the alpha ending in less than a week, season 3. Sandstorm's CyberKong's party in the draft gallery. So again, this is different software from the alpha itself. I'll make sure to drop the game maker link here in chat before I forget, because you do have to open up the game maker to join us in the social hub Sandstorm. So, but outside of that, we're going to be taking a look at what I made in Vox Edit. Super basic. You can see it up on screen. But just drop in that game maker link before I forget. So if you're interested in visiting the party on Saturday, you're going to want to be in the game maker. So make sure you have that updated. Oh, here I am. But yeah, welcome in, everybody. I see Cynthia's here. Welcome. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get back into the trading card game that we've been working on every so often. So what I'm showing here on screen is a deck. So with every trading card game, you're basically drawing cards from a deck, right? So I made a fake deck that has 2 animations on it. The first one is going to be the appearance of it drawing a card from it. Super simple. Essentially, the first animation, we can see about half second in, the card has slid off of the top, and then literally a frame after that, it resets. So it appears as though the player has drawn a card, and then that top card kind of like disappears. So we'll see that in the game maker. And then it at the last frame, it kind of resets to frame 1. And then the other animation we made was drawing the last card in the deck. So basically all of the cards underneath it on the very first frame disappear underneath this topmost card. And then we can see that same animation of the card sliding off. And the key here is that all of my cards have gone underneath the floor. So underneath basically position 0 on the y-axis. So all of the cards have gone underneath the ground, so we won't be able to see them. They're still there. And so this is kind of like faking that, oh, you drew the last card in your deck. So we're going to see how we can interact with these in the game maker. Hey, SandStorm, what's happening? Ooh, a Witcher reference. I see what you did there. Yeah, I'm the NPC that just wants to play Gwent. So, without further ado, we just have those 2 animations, and we're going to try to add these to our game. Things are going to get really complicated in these next couple sessions of trading card game shenanigans. So hopping back into the game maker now. Yo, thanks for the follow, Lewis Pie. How are you? If you guys have any questions, no matter how beginner, intermediate, whatever, I am happy to teach. Like, this is a great platform to ask questions and receive live feedback, especially when it comes to learning mechanics. Like, if you have trouble understanding how a quest might work, or how to make a character talk to you and activate something, perhaps spawn something, or maybe have an enemy that you want to be nice until you do something aggressive towards them. Like, these are the types of things that we can visit as they come up. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have, or perhaps want me to break down something you've seen in a different game or inside the alpha itself. But where we last left off with our trading card game, I have essentially 3 cards in my hand. We can see a couple things are going to be revisited as we go on, but we can see we have my character here with 50 health, we have the enemy character with 50 health, and we have a secondary enemy character with 50 health. So the way trading card games work is every turn you draw a card. During that turn, you get to play a card, and then usually after you play a card, it's the enemy's turn, and then it rinses and repeats. So what we're going to try and set up today is me playing a card, and then we're going to have a prompt on screen that says end turn. And so that's going to essentially reset our character and kind of allow us to position ourselves in a way that we can see the enemy do their turn. And this is going to be very complicated as we go, but again, this is something that hasn't really been created in the sandbox, so it's fun to visit it and kind of break it down as we go. So what we'll do is we'll try and simulate that turn, that first kind of player interaction. And that's going to be drawing a card. So we're going to set up that animation that we just made in VoxEdit. So again, in VoxEdit, we had the draw card, and then we also had the last card. So the last card we actually don't have to visit yet. We'll say there's maybe like 20 cards in our deck. So that would mean 20 times that we have to draw our cards. What the what? Hey, Lucas, how's it going? Well, Lucas, I'm stumbling my way through a card game. So we'll see how long it takes before I start pulling my hair out. But a lot of this is going to be a work in progress. So keep in mind that patience helps. So we made this deck. Let's go ahead and simulate drawing a card. So when the player's turn begins, we're going to draw a card. So for the sake of our example here, I'm actually going to just delete, one of our cards, and we're going to spawn a card. So let's use a number pad to represent each of our different kind of like card spawning locations. We can see here, I think I made presets the last time we played. Yeah, so I have 3 different cards here. So this is number 2, and this is going to be number 3. So before I continue, I just want to make sure all of our cards spawn, and it looks like we have different, number pads hidden on top of them, which represent, the name of the card, how much the card costs to consume, and what the card can do. So we can just take a quick peek. We can see the name at the top, how much it costs to use it, and then what it does at the very bottom of those cards. And sick. Well, I hope you get better soon, Lucas. Did you go to Canada as well? Cold cuts of cheese. What's up? How you doing? All right, so we're going to basically have a representation. So this is going to be our spawn point for card 1. So card 1 spawn. So that's literally all that these number pads will do. So we're going to remove the basic behaviors of them. And we're going to make them invisible, but they're each going to have a specific tag. So this will be spawn. Then we'll do card.1.spawn. Turn it invisible, and we'll duplicate it. Now, we're not going to make the 2 and 3 card spawn, but I'll go ahead and create them in advance. The card.2.spawn. And card.3.spawn. So what we want to do is simulate our turn starting. So again, like how card games work is it's like player's turn, player does things, player ends turn. Then enemy turn. We're not going to actually simulate the enemy drawing cards. I think for our purpose, we're just going to have the enemy have a preset thing that they do every turn. It might vary. So like they'll do ability A on turn 1, ability B turn 2, and then, go between those every odd and even turn. But what we'll do for the player's sake is we're going to spawn a card at the start of their turn. So let's go ahead and kind of set up that order of operations. So I'm going to make a sign here that is going to act as the player basically starting their turn. So we'll go ahead and make this a speaker component, and we're going to make a message that kind of starts off this whole order of operations. And we're going to do start.turn. So start.turn is going to be a long delay, first of all, so we can't spam it. For now, we'll just set it at 10 seconds. But when we send out this message, a couple things will happen. First of all, we're going to draw a card from our deck. So we can go ahead and test that out. We're going to do start.turn. And what I like to do is use the door behavior to make triggerable animations. So this door is essentially going to open and close, but it's going to use the exact same animation, and it's always going to open and close when we hear that message. So start.turn. So we start our turn, and it's going to draw a card. And behind the scenes, it's acting like a door. And a door, when it receives a message, such as when you interact with it, it's opening and closing. So we're essentially using that opening and closing kind of behavior and associating it with our start.turn. Oh, you did not, says Lucas. Sick before it was cool. Hey, gotcha. Hey, A's, what's happening? Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very, it's kind of Yu-Gi-Oh, Quan. And I positioned my insect in defense position. You've activated my trap card. All right, so we're going to draw a card at the start of our turn. And what we'll probably do is like the very first turn, we'll have like a tutorial. We'll probably visit that later, but that is definitely something we'll do. And essentially every turn, you can use a card and you're gaining a card. So essentially at the start that turn, we're spawning whatever card is next in, the order of operations. So what we'll do is we want, oh man, this is where it gets weird. We're going to have off to the side here 20 different cards. However, we are unable to, make 20 cards for the sake of this kind of like, experiment. So we're essentially working with these 3 cards, and we're going to be using each one of these 3. And we're going to use an asset spawner that is going to always be on this first position. So the asset spawners are going to randomly pick. But we're going to set up a little bit of RNG here. First thing I'll do is set up my asset spawners. Essentially, in my hand, I want all of my cards, no matter which card, all 3 of them, are all going to spawn inside my hand in the first position of my hand. We can see here, I'm kind of going to fake it in a way. We're going to spawn a preset. That preset is going to be all 3 of our different, cards. So Heat Spray 1, Heat Spray 2, and Heat Spray 3. We made these last week. And so which one spawns? Well, we're essentially going to set up RNG to pick between the 3. So this is where things are going to get pretty complicated. But for now, we'll at least get the start game working. And we actually want a very long delay for this, because every turn we want a different card to spawn. So each one of these asset spawners is going to spawn a different card. So let's just see what happens when I, start my turn. And we can see the deck spit out a card, and then hopefully we'll see the card appear in my hand. We can see my deck on the left side. A card is drawn. However, we didn't get the card to spawn inside of our hand yet. So let's take a quick look at this. So start.game, I think we did turn. That's why it didn't work. So we start the turn. Card appears in our hand. I can pick it up. I can use it to deal damage to the toad at the top left. And it removed it from our hand. And then what's going to happen is once we use a card, we'll have a prompt on screen that says end turn. Let's go ahead and develop that, which is going to be using our detectors over here. So anytime a card is detected, so basically we use a card, it's spitting out this message, card.detected. So that's going to tell this asker behavior to appear. This asker behavior is going to be, trading card game talking to us. End your turn. We'll specifically say there's nothing else you can do. End your turn. End turn. So this is just to kind of emulate like, hey, there's nothing else you can do, end your turn. Obviously, there would be other things you could do, but for the sake of us setting up this kind of order of operations. And this will trigger an end.turn message. And we'll be setting these things up as we go. Slither Kai with the Yu-Gi-Oh reference. Buenos dias. Hi, Roxy. Welcome in. And so just another announcement, if you guys ever have questions, not even related to what I'm doing, but of course those are welcome as well. But if you have questions about GameMaker, like I love to kind of troubleshoot things. And if you have, maybe a problem, or maybe you are interested in how something works that you've encountered in a game, such as those in the alpha, I'd be more than happy to visit those with you. So feel free to ask. So we're spawning, these cards in our hand. I set up these respawn locations. These are useful. However, I'm not really using them right now. I'm using these asset spawners as we're drawing cards from the deck. Also, when I started my turn, I want to make sure this is grabbable. So you can see I'm grabbing it. So you shouldn't be able to lose this. We will want to do things like confirming, like, hey, do you want to use this card, on the toad, and et cetera, et cetera. Which one of these components looks like this is what we're grabbing here? Of course, we had our discard pile. So right now I'm kind of revisiting the things we've already made. So we have a discard pile. This is where cards are spawning once we use them. Again, like I could pick up any of these cards. We can see once the card has been used, we have this ask your behavior appear. Nothing else you can do. End your turn. And then once we end the turn, we'll simulate the toad attacking us. And the toad will deal 2 damage to us. So what I'll probably end up doing is have this toad appear like it's attacking. Or perhaps I'll place like a card that fakes the toad attacking. So for example, we made this snowball. So I'll probably make this appear and then kind of like point it at our firefly. So I'm just trying to understand, these things as they happen. And we have our kind of like resources here at the very bottom of the screen. We can see a 4. Probably adjust that to like a 2 or something. And then we want that number to go up and down. So that's something we'll also try and set up. So again, here's what we did. We have our deck on the left side of the screen. It animates, spawning a card. Card spawns. And when it's in our hand, we can go to the left or right. So this is something we set up the last week. Essentially, I'm enabling the leech over here to accept a point of damage. Or if I go to the left side, I'm enabling the frog. What didn't occur is the card wasn't removed when we brought it up to the leech. So let's take a quick look at those. I need a kill message to go out. Looks like it's going to be one of these. Yep. We'll bring this over. Sending out the kill message once the attack message goes through. And of course, it's only going to those in the yellow radius. So that's helpful because if I were to use the card over here, it's not dealing that kill message. So all I needed to do was duplicate that, and I think that fixed it. Yep, there we go. Perfect. That one's working. We ended our turn. Every time we start a turn, we're basically going to be spawning a new card in our hand. And then we also want to kill that card underneath once we spawn a new one. So these are the types of things we got to think about and try and circumnavigate. But there's a lot of things going on here. We also don't want the player to be able to interact with things when it's the enemy's turn. We kind of want a cutscene to happen. So we're going to be setting up this card kind of like spawning on screen, then shimmying towards our Firefly here. And that kind of like simulates that animation, and it's going to deal a point of damage to our Firefly. So let's go ahead and kind of make that simulation occur, where we're dealing a point of damage to our Firefly. And we can do all that behind the scenes here. So essentially the end.turn message is going to cause this asset to spawn on screen. But when it spawns, it's going to kind of throw itself at our Firefly. We're going to do a respawn to tag. This tag is going to be our enemy card. And we're going to have two different cards, but we can do enemy.card.1. And then we're going to have enemy card.2. So this card is going to spawn at enemy card.1. And it's going to do that once that end turn message goes out. We're going to hide the health bars. And so when it spawns, it's going to shimmy. So we will fake that platform effect. And we're going to go, because of the pivot point here, I'm going to go, what, like -5? So it'll essentially spawn, and then it's going to throw itself down in this direction. Well, actually, because of our pivot point here, we kind of fake it as we're setting it up. So it spawns, and then we're basically going to make it appear as though it's being brought towards our Firefly. So we'll do an offset here. It's too far. Perfect. We'll do -15. Nope, too far. -10. Great. So it spawns, and then it goes towards our Firefly. And what we'll do is we'll set up another detector. So this detector will acknowledge that our card has spawned. Where our card enters into this radius. So this is going to be a card.1. We'll make this a little bit more specific. This will be enemy card.1. Which we did set up with that tag, so this will probably need to be something different. So this will be enemy.1. So if an enemy.1 enters into this radius, so we're setting up this radius now. So once that card enters here, into this blue radius here, it's going to be acknowledged. So this will be enemy .1 damage. And so that needs to be accepted by a couple different things. So we'll have it be received by this message broadcaster. And so once it's received by the message broadcaster, it'll send out a damage message. We'll do damage 1. And it's going to go specifically to our Firefly, which is being tracked right here. I'm tagging it Firefly so that it will communicate. So it's going to deal 1 point of damage specifically to our Firefly. You can see that the radius within it, so it won't deal damage to anything else, but it's only going to deal damage to a Firefly anyway. And so once it deals damage, which it's going to wait until enemy .1.damage goes out, which is also going to be associated with a parent. So we do need a parent. That way we can spawn this using a preset. So we're going to set up a quick preset here. So my preset is actually going to spawn elsewhere. So it's going to be off the screen. And the reason for that is so I can completely remove this card. This card itself is going to spawn where I need it to. The parent allows me to customize the card being removed from the game itself. That's simply because we added a platform behavior that we have to do this. For example, I would use a plant behavior if I was able to. So this is essentially going to be what spawns. We likely won't need these spawn points, at least not at the moment. But for now, we'll keep them there. So these will only spawn or respawn to tag on enemy.card.1. This is the tag that they're respawning on, enemy.card.1. And so once they spawn there, they immediately start moving. So they immediately go in that direction, ending at this point, which then they will be detected, and that sends out the 1 point of damage. So once that detection message goes out, I need them to be removed from the game. That's where this plant behavior comes in. It's essentially acting as like a kill all message, but it's going to be associated with the snowball. This is going to be an enemy 1 snowball. Then this over here is going to be the enemy snowball anchor. And so this itself is going to spawn off screen, so we aren't going to see it. And it spawns as soon as the start turn message is created. Basically, once end turn goes out, it's telling our snowball to spawn. So the snowball itself is going to be doing whatever it wants, but it's going to be doing it off screen. So I know there's a lot of things going on right now, but hopefully once I get it working, I can kind of explain it in detail. We have our enemy 1 snowball and our anchor. So I'm going to attach the snowball card to the anchor, and then I'm going to save this as a preset. This will be snowball 1. So our asset spawner is essentially only when the player's turn starts, it's spawning it. So we're spawning a preset. And once it spawns this preset, it's causing this entire parent to spawn. So it's spawning both of these assets. The smaller one is controlling the bigger card. And so the bigger card has its own health pool, which allows it to be destroyed. And once it's destroyed, it respawns over here, which then it starts moving. So everything seems to be set up correctly. I'll probably save this preset one more time. And we'll see if it works. Again, this is spawning. to be off screen so we don't see it. It's going to be destroyed once the damage is done. And it's all being done. It spawns on our turn, but it deals the damage on their turn. Let's see what happens. We spawn a card on our turn. We use the card. We can see the card is actually spawning outside over there. It didn't end our turn. There we go. Now it's ending our turn. End your turn. After 1 second, the card spawns. So we can see the rotation of our spawn point is actually very important. Okay. We got to find the correct rotation here. Right, now we just flip it another 180 degrees. Is it this one? Nope. Oh, it didn't even save it. What? Oh. We need to flip it one more time. Perhaps it's the 270. Okay. There we go. So now our card moves towards the Firefly. When it reaches the end, it's supposed to be detected. So let's take a look at that. So we're detecting our enemy.1 card, which we didn't set up here. So enemy.1. Which is that right there. Which will also delete this one. And so we're spawning it only after we start our turn. And finally, this needs to be raised a bit. Like that. The card spawns. Snowball goes towards our Firefly. It deals 1 point of damage. Nice. Okay. So that, once that happens, we're starting a new turn. That'll enable it to... this sign, for example, is basically us beginning the game, but it's going to be an endless cycle after that point. So let's just explain everything that happened behind the scenes. We start the game by talking to the sign. That's going to draw a card, which we saw the deck animate. So now that the card is in our hand, we can use any of our 3 options here. And we'll pick it up, and we're going to bring it to this lychee. So once we do that, we're ending our turn because we are out of resources. So that'll be the next thing we do, is we control our resources. So I'll animate those. But nothing else we can do this turn. End our turn. That causes our frog to then throw a snowball at our Firefly, and that ends their turn. We'll probably have an asker behavior, kind of narrate what the enemy does as it plays out. So those are the 2 things we're going to work on for the rest of the stream. We're going to have the resources be acknowledged and managed. And then narration of what the enemy does, and them ending their turn. This is definitely a little bit complicated, but it's also, I guess, fun, at least for me, to kind of navigate and understand like how to approach mechanics like these. A lot of this is kind of like the skeleton of a game like this, and so everything you see me doing on screen is kind of trial and error. And so Sandstorm kind of liked the idea of me making a card game, but this is a lot more frustrating behind the scenes, especially because I'm saving a lot of the trial and error for the stream itself. So I definitely want to just kind of narrate my own thought process as we do it. So if it's hard to follow, I understand, and I would love to reiterate things going on if you have questions. It is very tricky, Slaterade, and so if you enjoy this series, make sure you guys let Sandstorm know over on Discord or Twitter. If you want me to see me doing other things, also something you should let Sandstorm know on Discord or Twitter. But I am enjoying it. It's definitely a difficult process. So now that we're spawning our card, it's being sent. Let's go ahead and set up that kind of asker behavior, that process that goes on behind the scenes. And so we're going to set up this end turn to where it's being communicated. And we're going to be turning off and on a series of events. So basically, enemy turn 1, enemy turn 2, enemy turn 3. So when we send out that end turn, this end turn message is going to be communicating with things behind the scenes. Those are going to be health components and message broadcasters. And then more of these asker behaviors. So end turn is going to be received by our message broadcaster, which this message broadcaster is going to be initially on, but it will turn off. So we're going to do enemy turn 1 end. So I'm trying to make these messages a little bit more concise, so I'll be able to visit them in the future and understand like, oh, this message does that. In the past, I was kind of using acronyms, and revisiting those acronyms just did not help me. So longer messages is not like a bad thing, but just keep that in mind. Yeah, exactly, Slaterade. You got to push the envelope. If you don't, well, you're just making the same old, go to point A and do options, 1, 2, or 3. So we're trying to make something super unique here. Okay, so this is turning off and on, but we're sending out a message exclusively to our asker behavior here, so that it narrates, enemy turn 1. We're going to do enemy.turn 1. And this is going to occur once end turn goes out. So again, this is our first turn. So this is initially going to be on, but it turns off once we get to turn 2. So what we can do is we can also set this up to be a broadcast only once. So we'll enable that for now. It'll be actually quite useful in the future. And so this message, enemy turn.1, is going to be received by our health component and our asker behavior. So this health component can be used for a number of things, but for now we're going to set it to the side. Instead, we're going to set everything up with our asker behavior. We have our enemy turn 1, and this is going to tell us what's happening. The frost toad sends a snowball towards your firefly, dealing 1 point of damage. And so we're going to have a 2-page point of dialogue here. So this is going to be enemy turn dot 1.2. Duplicate it. The enemy ends their turn. And then we have the message start turn. And this is going to be sending out the message enemy.turn.1.end. And so we saw that causes our message broadcaster to turn off. However, we did set up the broadcast only once. So we don't necessarily need the toggle behavior for this because we're using the broadcast only once. But that will be very important for turn 2. So this is going to be our turn 2. We can kind of set up the bare bones for. The most important thing with our turn 2 is it needs that toggle behavior, and it's going to be initially off. Turning on once we get that turn 1 end. That's the most important thing about that. It's good to save it every couple minutes. I have lost quite a lot of work by the game maker just crashing. But that's the alpha we live in. We're all alpha males and alpha females here. Oh, if we were to set this up correctly, this should interact. We end our turn. You can see the frost toad sends a snowball towards your firefly, dealing 1 point of damage. The enemy ends their turn. And then we get that start turn message. So the start turn message is essentially going to do the same thing that was initially started. The main difference here is we want our cards to kind of track themselves and essentially spawn in the locations that our cards were removed from. And so that might be another thing we set up today, if we have time. Last thing I wanted to do is make sure the start.turn message also goes out. So that's going to be our enemy.turn.1.end. Which is essentially spitting out the start turn message as well. So we have one message going to 2 locations. So just to kind of reiterate, this message, enemy.turn.1.end, which signifies, okay, the enemy did everything they did, it's our turn again. This is going to 2 locations. It's going to go to our health component to start the new turn. So it's basically spitting out a message, start turn. And that needs to go to the necessary locations, such as our deck. Make sure this has the deck tag. Then we also have to send it to our asset spawners. This will be card.spawner. It's going to our card spawner, and it's going to our deck. It's sending start turn. The death message was the enemy turn end. So that enemy.turn.1.end is not only starting our turn after a brief delay, 0 seconds is still a brief delay, but it's also enabling the enemy.turn.2 to occur. So it's enabling, it's toggling on enemy.turn.2, which we'll be able to test. I'm making this one. And this time, in parentheses, we'll put, this is turn 2. For this first one, we'll put in parentheses turn 1. So this is going to be doing more or less the same thing, because we're still working with very basic card mechanics until we get to the more complicated things. But this is going to be sending out enemy.turn.2.2, basically the second part of our turn. As we saw, it's just another asker behavior, which then sends out the same series of messages, enemy.turn.2.end. So we're going to go ahead and test and make sure this communicates properly. Which then would enable us to do our third turn. This was turn.2.end. Cool, so let's go ahead and test and see if we can do 2 turns here. Turn 1, Frosttoad sends a snowball toward your Firefly, dealing 1 point of damage. Firefly takes 1 point of damage. Enemy ends their turn. Do another one. And it didn't detect our card because the old card was already there. So we need, when card detected goes out, after a very brief delay, to wipe out whatever card is right here. We need all of these cards to be interacted with by a message broadcaster that sends a kill.card message specifically to whatever is in range. And so it's going to be in our discard pile here. So only the cards that make it into our discard pile after start turn. That way our discard pile is constantly empty. I'd probably change this in the future, but for now this will work. So we're killing any card at the start of our turn that is in our discard pile. That way we can spawn another card. So when that is detected, that kill.card message goes out, which we're setting up with our presets here. So each of these is doing that same thing as before, having a plant behavior. And then I needed to redo my original as well. So it's in our presets. So heat spray 1. So this also needs the plant behavior. And then we need to make sure this has the correct tag. Spray 2 card. This one did not have the card tag. So now we're going to save all of our presets again because we've updated them. So this is heat spray 1. Delete it. Save our preset 2, spray 2. These ones I'm not deleting yet. We'll get to that point once we start customizing the hand part of our trading card game. This will be heat spray 3. So we've saved all of those presets so that they can appear and reappear. Go ahead and save it. And we'll play. Start the game. We have 3 cards in our hand. We use a card. Nothing else we can do this turn. End your turn. End turn. Turn 1, the Frost Toad sends a snowball towards your Firefly, dealing 1 point of damage. The enemy ends their turn. So now we're on start turn again. And our health component over here, we saw it explode. But we need to send this to our message broadcaster. So I'm going to label it NB. And over here is our message broadcaster as the MB. In fact, instead of MB, I'm going to specify it as the discard.pile instead. So this health component is going to be communicating to our discard.pile. And because we already duplicated it one time, I'll make sure to add that to this one. So it's sending that start.turn message, which, as we decided, kills whatever card is in our discard pile. There's our enemy's turn going on. It's turn 2. So we can see the asker behavior is communicating. And the enemy ends their turn. Great. A couple other things is we would like for our player to be killed at the end of every turn. Essentially, end.turn is going to kill the player as well. Oh no. Did I save it? This happened during my stream too. Essentially, this menu just crashes. Well, get to restart GameMaker. I think I saved it relatively recently, Slater, so we're good. I wonder if it saves the presets without saving the game. Because presets have their own kind of like knowledge. So it did not save our discard pile. We can add that really quick. Okay. Nice. So this is all working according to what we set up. We didn't make it past turn 3 yet. So we wanted, and I'm going to try it again, to go into our health component for the player. There it is. So for whatever reason, going into this component section of the controller menu completely breaks the game maker sometimes. But we were able to fix it. So we're going to kill the player whenever start turn goes out. Actually, we want this on end turn. So we want this to kind of like reset our character right in the middle of the screen. Let's see what happens. We play the card, end turn. So this is going to be customized quite a bit to where we don't see the other assets on screen here, such as, the text of the heat spray, the firefly, which I kind of want to set up real quick, see if we can do anything about that. We're going to use an asset spawner for this. We're also going to be using a void. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spawn blocks, pop the camera. So we're going to be using a multi behavior, and I'm going to be spawning blocks, a small radius above our cards, then our health. I also want to hide in a way, but we'll get to that after we get this working. This one. So I want to see how this looks. So this is going to be on received message end.turn. And so when it does that, we also want it to remove these said blocks. I'm going to be using a void behavior on start turn. And so we're going to be destroying any blocks within this radius on received message start turn. So this message start.turn, we also want to be given a specific tag. So that tag will be our void, which we can see already had a tag by default. And so our health components, as they're the ones spitting out the start.turn message, we're going to add that void tag to it. Let's go ahead and save and see how that looks. We find the bugs. It's true, Slater. But I will admit I don't report them as often as I should. So when we hit end turn, I wanted blocks to spawn. I think I saw them in the air. So I gotta find where the blocks are. We can see the shadows here, but I don't think the shadows will appear once we're in the game. Okay, so right now it's not spawning blocks. Oh, I didn't pick a block to spawn, that's why. So we want the Metaverse dark, which is spawning on the end turn message. The end turn message goes out through our asker behavior, so I don't have to customize that. Great, so here's our blocks that kind of spawned. And we have a toggle on our void, so our void's kind of like removing it. So I think what we're doing is on start here, and we're going to give this a health component and cause it to respawn. Let's see if I can get this working before we kick it off. Kick off the stream. Well, no, we still want the received message. However, we want to reset this with a short delay on the opposite. So we have the end turn. Hide that. And then same deal here, except it's the opposite. And this is our multi-block. So this one is requiring the end.turn, but instead we want the start.turn to cause it to do the thing we want. Start.turn. So that start turn message goes out our health components. Yeah, so we're going to add the multi to that as well. So these health components are doing a lot of work behind the scenes. It allows me to customize it. So I could tell the start.turn, for example, that message to have several delays. Like I could have more health components, and I'll even do that as kind of like just a demonstration. We can have a short delay specifically with the start.turn only for our multi. And so these are the types of things you can set up with health components. It's just having that customized death timer. And you can customize it based on, where you want it to go. Let's go ahead and test it out. So now we've got like that black kind of border here. And it's just to resemble, a background per se. Probably move these just a little bit where they're only covering my cards. And I would like for my toad here, or my firefly, I should say, to be a little bit to the left. We'll see if this impacts it. It should still work. So we can see the indicator does still go through the multi-blocks. I think that's a bug, actually. Well, we have the display over text. So let's see what happens if I disable the display over. But yeah, after this, we'll wrap things up. It does still display the text. That's a bug. But regardless, pretty cool stuff. I hope you guys learned something during today's Sandstorm stream. Went a little bit late today. The last thing that we'll talk about is just the recap of the party coming up on Saturday. Sandstorm's hosting a party in the Metaverse. Hello. Be there, or be square. It's going to be on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. UTC. So I hope to see you there. It's going to be a CyberKong's Halloween. Woo woo! All right, guys, we're going to be wrapping up the show here. Hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for popping in, hanging out. If you ever have any questions, feel free to bring them to this stream. We'll probably pick this back up on Monday. So I hope to see you there. Peace!